All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon on a Saturday. This is another bonus episode of the Missing Wolves podcast for people that are just kind of figuring out what we're doing over here with Hitting the Hardwood. We are taking our Lynx coverage of post-game shows, throwing that into more Wolves post-game content, as well as bringing in some of the local personalities, celebrities. Radio voice of the Minnesota Timberwolves, Alan Horton, is on the pod today. Alan, how's it going, man?
I'm good, Andrew. How you doing, man?
Good. I tell you, a lot better than having to go to Philadelphia to watch that last preseason game. I tell you what, that was rough watching from home. I can't imagine what that was like in the building.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of people there. There wasn't much atmosphere. I mean, really, the only excitement was actually came from the 76ers side, in my opinion, with Joel Embiid playing. Just his first preseason game of the season, only his second preseason game in the last 3 years. So I thought it was intriguing from a Sixer point of view. But it's the second straight year the Wolves have had a back-to-back in the preseason. And it just, not only did the starters or really the top 8 not even play, they weren't even there. Chris Finch using that time as an opportunity after the Chicago game to give the guys a couple of days, sort of a mini break for 2 days to kind of get relaxed, take care of themselves, maybe enjoy themselves for a couple of days, and then get back to work for a couple of practices before the season starts in Portland.
Well, and Alan, I first want to get it on the record congratulating you, because not only are you doing radio this year, but you are also going to be doing quite a few TV spots with Jim Pete, which people who have listened to you on the radio, I feel like would agree with me that you have great chemistry with Jim Pete. Playoff games, he pops in quite a bit. Sometimes on national games he does. Yep. Congrats, though, on getting that TV role, because I know I was pulling for you when I heard that you were going for it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's been great to get so much positive feedback about the opportunity to do some games on TV. We did it once last year in the spring against San Antonio, and then I did a couple of games on TV filling in for Marnie Gellner on the Lynx coverage. And, the opportunity came up with Michael Grady still doing some Timberwolves games, but obviously moving on to a bigger stage for most of the season, doing NBC, doing Amazon. And, of course, the Wolves are such a popular team, and there are more national games now. They're getting the maximum number of national exclusives, too, of 15 games. So if you mix in those 15 games with the games that Michael Grady will come back and do, I'll fill in for the rest. And, when I jump from radio to TV, we'll simulcast those games on the radio and on iHeartRadio, the iHeartRadio app and the Timberwolves mobile app. And then when they're a national exclusive or Grady's doing the games, then I jump back on radio, and then I'll do all the postseason games, hopefully with Jim Peterson by my side in the postseason. Because remember, there's no local coverage on TV now in the first round. They took that away. And so it's all national. So it's kind of exciting. I think fans are going to have a number of different voices with the national people, with Michael, with myself. And Jim Peterson is a guy I've known extremely well for the last, ever since I came aboard in 2007. So we've gotten a chance to work more and more together, and the chemistry is there. And, we love talking basketball. So I hope that shines through on the broadcast this year.
Well, and that's what I've always noticed is when he does do the radio spots with you, you can just hear the chemistry. I mean, you guys sound like you're having fun when you're breaking down the game. And I'm excited for you. I'm excited to hear it more. And that's nothing against Michael Grady, who is amazing, who is definitely his star is kind of shining and rising every season, it seems like. But it's nice when you can go for a Michael Grady, and I don't feel like there'll be that much of a drop off with an Alan Horton filling in.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And we've already done 2 games in the preseason on TV. It was good to get those under our belts. And then, all gearing towards the season opener in Portland. So it's, I think it's going to be a fun year for Wolves fans, and they're going to have to adjust to some new TV providers, right? So Amazon, you've got Peacock, you've got NBC, you've got ESPN and ABC. Those are staples, but the games are going to be all over the place this year. And as you and I were talking off air, there are going to be multiple different start times all across the country because TV dictates all of that. The Wolves have some afternoon games. They've got some late afternoon games. They've got some, 6:30, 7 starts. And then once you go west, then anything can happen. It feels like there'll be some games at 9, 9:30, who knows, 10 o'clock. And the games are going to be everywhere. So I think the NBA is going to do a really good job of promoting on their social media channels and really getting it out there about where you can find games on a nightly basis.
Yeah, and for people who watch the WNBA this last summer, I feel like they've already gotten a little bit of a ease into this new kind of streaming life that we have, where WNBA, it was Amazon, Ion, ESPN, ABC, local, just kind of a crapshoot every night. Is this kind of the trend that the NBA is going for overall? Is that it will be more of, or I should I phrase it as like, is it going to get cleaner after this year because some of these other channels lose a little bit of their rights?
I think we'd all like to see just one provider carry all of the national games, but that's just not the world we live in. I think leagues are looking to maximize revenue in any way they can. And so it certainly seems like with the NFL kind of leading the way with a number of different TV partners and even Netflix jumping in and Amazon. I mean, I don't even know where all the games are. Of course, CBS and Fox and NBC. But I think that's the way big time leagues operate. They try to sell as many packages as they can. And if providers are willing to step up, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Netflix, whether it's Peacock and NBC, they'll listen to any offer. And if they can get the right deal, I think this is kind of the way we're going, at least for now.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I've been deep in WNBA all summer, and I mean, they have USA Network deals coming out now, ESPN, Amazon, Disney. It just kind of seems like the basic cable package is kind of going by the wayside. I did want to touch on, you mentioned you're still doing some radio when you're not doing the TV spots. Are those broadcasts? You mentioned the TV ones are going to be simulcast, so I imagine those will be a little bit different from what you're used to doing. But when you are solely radio, is it going to kind of go back to what fans have come to expect, where it's practice interviews, kind of clips throughout the week being put in there, or is it going to be more of a TV broadcast even when you're doing radio?
No, when I do radio solely, it'll be a radio only broadcast, and it'll be exactly the way I've been doing it for the better part of, this will be 19 years, I guess, going back to 2007. I wore the throwback shirt here. This is like a Timberwolves. Let's see if we get there. Look at this. This is the year I got hired. Timberwolves played, I think they were in Istanbul, Turkey, playing Efes Pilsen when I was hired. And then they went on to London and played the Celtics. I wasn't on that trip, but I somehow got a shirt, and I used this shirt as my my kind of I don't know, memento of being hired back in my first official day was October 15th of 2007, which, as you know, is right in the heart of preseason. It was a whirlwind. But I had a partner my first 2 years, Billy McKinney, and then Kevin Lynch. And then I've been solo ever since. And so we're going to bring the same type of approach with interviews with players and coaches on the pregame and halftime. And then during the game, sprinkle in some sound from, a lot of the players talking about that night's matchup or talking about whatever kind of storylines are going on with the team. So when those games are on the radio, whether on KFan or the iHeartRadio app, Timberwolves mobile app, Sirius XM satellite radio, the Audio League Pass on NBA.com is awesome. It's only $10 to listen to every team's game for the entire preseason, regular season, postseason. I love using that on the off nights when I'm doing dishes, doing the laundry, popping in games and listening to what's going on in Brooklyn or Detroit or Portland or LA, and listening to all my counterparts around the league. So those broadcasts will stay the same. And when there is a simulcast, it is essentially a TV broadcast first, which is being carried on the radio or on the app. So it will sound a little bit different, and it will not be quite as play-by-play intensive because TV rules the roost, and that's first and foremost what the simulcast is all about. So I think it's gone okay in the first couple of preseason games. We'll see how it goes in the regular season, but it's almost half the season on TV for me, and then half the season on radio.
And I mean, if you haven't listened to a radio broadcast for the Wolves, I would recommend it. I mean, Lynx too, for that matter. Sloan does a wonderful job. I'll give her a shout out. But you get a lot more of the practice interviews, a lot more, coach just talking to you. Cheryl had the same thing with Sloan, where they would get clips of just kind of solo interviews, which you don't get on the TV broadcast because there's commercials and banter and everything else that goes on. So
Yeah.
it is one of those kind of hidden gems if you're just a really big kind of Wolves psycho almost. You get a little bit more of that personal almost content than you get on TV.
It's in this day and age, as this we all are busy, and we don't have time every time the Wolves play to sit down in front of the TV and mark off 2 hours, 2.5 hours to watch the game. And so, we try to cater the radio broadcast to that. Someone who's driving in their car, someone who's in their house and maybe has some earbuds in, and they're doing something else, but they're also wanting to stay in tune with the broadcast. And it is a different medium. And by myself, I kind of have the freedom to kind of go a lot of different directions. We try not to miss much of the play-by-play because that's what people are tuning in for. And with the Wolves being so successful over these last 4 years, reaching the postseason, Western Conference Finals, last 2 years, what's happening on the floor does matter. And more people are tuning in and watching because of the success that the Wolves have had. So we don't drift too far away from that, but you are going to get a flavor for what Rudy Gobert thinks, what Anthony Edwards thinks, what Chris Finch's ideas are on a particular matchup or a particular opponent. So we try to go in a number of different directions, and we do have a little bit more freedom than maybe TV does.
And are you still going to be doing the post-game show after, or is that being handed off to Cal and the powers to be?
So when it's radio only, we'll keep things going the same way. Cal is generally the host of the pregame. He'll do a crosstalk with me. He'll toss it to me with the coach. He'll toss it to me with a player. And then postgame, I normally do the first couple of segments, try to carry, toss to the coach live, talk to toss to the locker room sound. And then he carries on with a couple of more segments of the postgame. So Cal has been with the Wolves for like over a decade now, and has really gotten comfortable in that role, in the studio host role. So he handles pregame, halftime, postgame, while still running everything in the studios. I don't know if fans realize there's a radio studio underneath in the basement, underneath Target Center, and it's been there since the inception of Target Center. And it used to be the old NBA radio studios. They used to use it for all their national stuff, and we still use it. It's been updated. It's got a studio in there. We can record things. And we run all of our games through there and then feed them out on the Timberwolves radio network and Sirius XM and to Secaucus, New Jersey, and where everything for the league stems from, whether it's League Pass, audio, or video. So he's in charge of all that down there.
I would add it's a pretty bougie studio. I've been in there once.
Oh, you've seen it?
Yeah. Nice. I think it was Alex brought me down there to record something for Fox 9. And Cal and Alex were gracious enough to let me use the soundproof. I mean, it's a bougie little studio you guys got down there.
It's really nice. It's great. And it's actually
when you're walking through the back alleys of the bowels of Target Center, but it is a really nice little recording studio.
Yeah. Alex Leibolt and Ben Haney, shout out to those guys. They've been with us for a couple of years as our broadcast coordinators. And it's right next to the control room, which is actually where the, all the scoreboard stuff happens, and that's all high-tech stuff. There's all sorts of screens, and on a game night, it's extremely busy in there. And in fact, that's where we used to do a bunch of our remote broadcasts during COVID. We did some of them from in the arena. Then we moved down into that room and had the screens just filled with different feeds, TV feeds, so we could call the games off the monitor. But a lot goes on behind the scenes down there in that studio.
And shout out Alex. Unfortunately, a Mets and a Jets fan, so he's having a rough fall right now. But
just another. But isn't that every year? I mean, that's every year, isn't it? I mean, it's he's still young. He's got some time. I grew up a Red Sox fan first and foremost, and for me, '86 was just devastating, and to have to go through 03, a couple other years in there as well. But it all becomes worth it when you finally get over that hump. And 2004 was that for the Red Sox. And from that point on, I've been coasting on Red Sox. They could not win again. Of course, they did win 3 more times. But, once you get that first one, it means so much more.
And I mean, let's just segue into it. I mean, the Wolves, that's their goal this year, right? 2 Western Conference Finals. They run the same band back together this year. We just kind of about an hour before we hopped on recording here on Saturday found out that Tristan Newton is getting waived from his 2-way contract and Johnny Juzang is being added as the 2-way guy. That to me kind of cements the roster at 14 guarantees. And then you have Rocco, Juzang, and Freeman as your two ways. Alan, how do you kind of feel about this roster, and what have you noticed from Juzang so far in the preseason that at least merits maybe giving him that shot instead of
I think two things, Johnny, right from that first game in San Diego against Denver, just when he was on the floor, I picture in the second half, of all the 10 players on the floor, he was the one guy that jumped out. It looked like he had already been in the NBA, and he has for 3 years with Utah. So this is his fourth season. So he's still eligible for that two-way spot. Had this been one more year, you can only take a two-way spot if you're in your first 4 seasons. So fortunately for the Wolves, he's eligible for that. And so he looks the NBA part, and he shot his way onto this team. I mean, he shot almost 50% from 3, and that really stood out. Now, the Wolves as a team shot really well from beyond the arc. It wasn't just Johnny, but he kind of led the way. And I think the way he approached things, he earned that spot. Tough to see Tristan Newton go, who was on a two-way last year. They picked him up from the Indiana Pacers midway through the season. And so it'll be interesting to see if Johnny can, now that he's made that two-way, can he make the next jump and get himself into the rotation? I think that might be difficult with the fact that you mentioned, Andrew, that 7 of your top 8 players are back. And the one guy who left was Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and everybody's super excited for Nickeil to get that contract with Atlanta, give him the opportunity there. But I think the Wolves, as much as they'll miss Nickeil and everything that he brought, including his availability, he missed one game in 2.5 years, talking regular season, play-in, or postseason. And that one game he missed was the second game he was acquired with Mike Conley. And then he stayed here during that All-Star break, got himself in the rotation, and just he turns out it's probably one of the best trades the Wolves have ever made, maybe the top one, getting Mike Conley and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and the draft pick that become Leonard Miller. I think the draft pick is in there as well, became something. I think it became Leonard. So they're going to miss him, no doubt, but I think they feel really good about TJ Shannon, Jalen Clark. We know they're high still on Rob Dillingham, and Bones Highland played really well early on in the preseason and may have had a step up on Rob, I think, to get in the rotation. I think Rob last couple of games, maybe, I don't know how we read into what happened in Philadelphia the other night. It wasn't kind of a fair matchup with the Wolves' basically third string and beyond going against, Tyrese Maxey playing 30 minutes a game and Joel Embiid playing 20 minutes. And so it wasn't exactly a fair fight. But Rob's going to get an opportunity. Bones is going to get an opportunity. And I think TJ and Jalen are probably in that mix for players. TJ, I think, is pretty much locked into that 8 spot. But 9, 10, and 11, those other 3 guys that I mentioned, probably fighting for that spot. And then everybody else kind of has to wait until maybe there's an opportunity. I should mention Johan, too. I mean, they're going to try to get him minutes. Difficult, though, when you've got Julius Randle, Naz Reid, and Rudy Gobert. All 3 guys don't miss a lot of time, and when they play, you want to play them as much as possible so you can win games, and that's that eats up most of the minutes there. But I do think the Wolves will be fairly deliberate about trying to get Johan some minutes throughout the season.
Yeah, Johan, the other roadblock, and to me, it's pretty similar to like Josh Minot last year. At some point, they got to see if Leonard Miller can play, and I wonder if they're going to give Lenny a little bit of run at the beginning of the season instead of Johan, just as he his brain catches up to everything that's happening. I mean, it's still wild. He's just 18 years old, and a year ago he was learning English with Slovenian guys. So his life has been a whirlwind.
I said this on the air. I said this on the air last night that he was matched up against Joel Embiid, and earlier on in the preseason he was matched up against Jonas Valanciunas. He got some minutes against Nikola Jokic. These are all great matchups and learning experiences for him. And when he was on the floor standing next to Embiid, I said, Johan at 18 years of age, it doesn't look like he's overmatched physically against Embiid. They were just standing there side by side, but he's got the size, and he's already kind of big enough. I think that size will become a little more chiseled. He'll get a little bit bigger and stronger, but he's already at a really good point where, normally you'd see an 18-year-old matched up against Embiid. You'd think, oh my God, Embiid's twice the size of him. But that wasn't the case. And so Johan had 3 blocks in that game, but only had 3 rebounds. So, I mean, he's still got a ways to go, but And you're right about Leonard Miller. He injured his pinky in the first day of practice, the first day of training camp after media day. And, when he was out for almost 2 weeks, you kind of, and this is what happens in this league. When you miss time, you kind of get forgotten. You're on the wayside, and you have to move on because the games and the practices just keep coming. And then when he comes back, you're like, oh, Leonard Miller. Like, he showed some good things against that Chinese team that the Wolves played. His size jumped out to me, just like, oh, he's not just one of these 6'6", 6'7" guys. Leonard's got some real size. His stroke looked pretty good. He knocked down threes. I think there might be an opportunity for him at some point this season.
Yeah, Leonard's just always been interesting to me. I don't know what it is about him that kind of holds him back, but at Summer League, he did a really good job rebounding. Kevin Hansen was on him the entire time about just being in the right spot defensively. I just kind of feel like with him having another team option after this year and just the Wolves kind of roster construction, they almost have to at least see if he can develop into something. But to your point as well, I mean, Johan, the thing that has stuck out the most to me is just he is such a serious person.
Yeah.
Summer League, I asked him, what are your hobbies outside of basketball? Because, I can talk 2K or stuff like that with anyone. I'm wearing a CM Punk shirt if they want to talk wrestling. Right. I asked him and he just kind of thought for a few seconds and he goes, really just basketball. And it's oh, yeah.
I think he just shifted from a soccer player literally to, okay, I can't find cleats that are big enough. I'm going to switch to basketball. Now this is all I'm going to do. So, he is very serious, but he's super polite. And, already on the road, there are a couple of times where you'll see him kind of looking about, where am I going here? Sometimes the hotels have 2 elevators, one to get up to the lobby and then the next one to go up. And, everybody's kind of helping him on his way. And he's part of a little French contingent that the Wolves have with not only Rudy and Johan, but they've got assistant coach Max Lefebvre. And they've got Jonathan Mesmack as well, who's in their sort of video and player development. So there's 4 people that you'll hear French being spoken all the time. So I think that's helpful to have some guys that are from your home country.
Yeah, I completely agree. I suppose we should talk about their other rookie too, Rocco, who Minnesota's kind of turning into an Australian center hotbed with Alana Smith.
We have another Australian contingent now too. We got the French connection. We got the Australian with Joe Ingles.
Rocco to me is such an interesting case for making the NBA because he barely played in Australia. He gets drafted pretty much because of his size and rumors that he can shoot. And I mean, watching him in practice, the stroke looks pretty good. He seems to be getting his feet under him. I would assume with him being on a 2-way, he's probably spending a lot of time in Iowa this year. But what have your thoughts been on Rocco so far?
Yeah, really impressed. Again, another young guy that doesn't look like he's 19 years of age. Matt Lloyd joined me on one of the broadcasts, I think against the Chinese team last week, that, a year earlier, Rocco probably would have been a first-round pick. And probably wasn't in a great position with the Brisbane Bullets. Can't tell you what went on there last year, but I don't have deep intel on Brisbane. But, I think the Wolves benefited from this, from him being available in the second round. He's got great size. And I think the path for him is probably a little longer than it is for Johan. But it's really intriguing to see him play. I mean, he's already gotten christened to the NBA. He took an elbow from James Wiseman in that Indiana Pacers game and broke his nose, had to be reset. Now he's wearing the face mask. And so he does look like Zorro out there with that black face mask. And he's getting his feet wet. I think probably you're right. A lot of time will be spent at Iowa for Rocco, but I think they're really high. He's just another guy too, that with his size too, and Johan fits into this category too. It's not just Rudy now that's deterring shots at the rim. It's with those guys' size and length. You see guys all the time. Johan is forcing misses where normally guys are knocking down that shot if it's not someone who's guarding them that's 7 feet tall or 7'5" or 6 with a wingspan. And Rocco's got that same kind of size. So I think they're high on what Rocco could become as well.
Alan, I'm going to throw us to a couple quick ad reads here quick. When we get back, though, I do want to just pick your brain on, the Rob Dillingham Bones situation. And then, just ask you who you have a feeling is going to break out this year, because I think Ant taking another step is probably the obvious answer, but there's still a lot of young guys on this team. But first, I got to pay bills, so ad reads it is.
Do it.
Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And we're back with another ad read, this time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. All right, Alan. So you mentioned it. You mentioned it earlier. Rob Dillingham, a rocky preseason, I think would be fair to say, which is kind of been my interpretation of his career so far. It seems like when he gets a chance and he's playing with good players around him, it looks pretty good. Mm-hmm. But then he just has these games where it's either turnovers are. I mean, that was Philadelphia, 3 turnovers in 3 minutes in the fourth quarter. It just looked at times like he didn't know really what was going on out there. And there's other times where he just can't hit a shot. Meanwhile, Bones, comes in and is saying all of the right things, which I've chatted to some people that worked with him a little bit in Denver. And it sounds like Bones has always been really good at saying the right things, but it's the next step of, you can say that you're going to get your teammates involved and that you realize that you're not the primary option, but at some point that falls off and Bones is going to Bones, I've been told. Mm-hmm. Do you have any inkling though of where that backup position is going to turn into? Because I tend to agree with you. I think Bones so far has at least outperformed Rob. I don't know if he would get the nod over him yet though.
Yeah, I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see both of them. I just think that's in the cards for however it shakes out. It may not even have to do with one beating the other in some sort of competition. Maybe just if Mike Conley misses time for some reason, or if they don't want to shift over, Ant to the point, or Dante, or they do have some options there. I just think you're going to see both of those guys, and of course you wouldn't have seen it last year because Bones came in too late. It was at the end of the the spring, and there really wasn't an opportunity for him to kind of crack the rotation. But Bones is he's got such a great personality. I didn't know him in the Denver days or even the LA Clippers for a year plus. I like to think that he is. You're right. He's saying, and I think he's doing all the right things right now. Yeah. And I think that's why he's made this kind of a competition. And I think the Wolves are very much still high on Rob Dillingham, but it is very much still a work in progress. And I really enjoyed watching him play against the Guangzhou Long Lions. I had to say that so many times. You would think that's like natural in my brain. That was a tough game to call on radio. I always enjoy when we play teams that we're never going to see again. I don't mind doing preseason games because normally that's just preparation for the regular season. But yeah, I'm not seeing too many of those guys that were on the Guangzhou Long Lions in the regular season. We played Maccabi Renana a few years ago. I can remember Maccabi Tel Aviv coming in a number of years ago, all those teams. But anyway, I thought Rob had a really solid game against that Chinese team. And I felt like he needed that game. And Chris Finch confirmed this when I asked him about it before the next game that the Wolves played in Chicago. Like, he just needed that game confidence-wise, I think, to realize, hey, I had a good scoring game. I had 9 assists in that game. I only had 1 turnover. And I really hope that was a springboard, or at least maybe that game in particular, but maybe now you start to put some of those games together. And I thought he played pretty well against Chicago. And then I think Philadelphia is tough to read into too much just because of the mismatch that game was and who Rob was out on the floor with. I think you're right. All players benefit from having better players around them. And so I just think it's going to be a work in progress. I think they're going to find more time for Rob than they did last year, but I think Bones is also going to be a part of the mix.
Yeah. Again, I can't state enough how impressed I've been with just Bones. And
yep.
I did a piece on him about a week and a half ago, and I dug back all the way to like his VCU days, looking at like assist to turnover ratios and assist percentage. And he's always been like a good decision maker when he has the ball. Like it, I think, like when you're looking at him on statistics, good assist to turnover ratio. He doesn't make a lot of like bad passes. It's just, has he really come to terms with, he's not going to be a primary option on this team? And if he has, I mean, maybe he is the answer. I mean, he's still young too, but to your point, they're going to give Rob a chance. Yeah. I think they have to at least, like I was saying with Lenny, they have to at least see what's there. And if that can be an option, because I think you'd agree, if Rob's just good this season, that changes things for this team when the playoffs come around.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Both of those guys, if they can contribute, just be solid, Chris Finch always, especially last year when he did give guys an opportunity, whether it was Josh Minot, whether it was Rob for a little while when Dante was down, TJ got run, Jalen started to get in the mix. When you're in those roles at the end of the rotation, they've got to be positive minutes. You don't have to be a star. You have to star in your role, and your role is only maybe to get 4 minutes a half, maybe 3, maybe 5, whatever it is. You have to star in your role, and you can't be a minus when you're out there on the floor. Plus minus is always interesting because it's obviously tied to who you're on the floor with, but you got to be you can't be a detriment to that group on the floor when you're in that role. There's no margin for error. It may be unfair at times, but that's what it is. And you have to star in that role to be able to get to another role where maybe you've got a little bit more margin for error. You've got more minutes to work with, and you can kind of let the game come to you. That's one thing that when you watch Jalen Clark come into the game, he's very patient about he knows his focus is on the defensive end to make the right play on offense. And when he does have an opportunity, take the shot or drive and try to get a shot at the rim. But he doesn't try to force things. You got to let those opportunities come to you.
When he got burned last year, Jalen Clark, that is, and he did, I think it was like within the first few minutes, he back cut and had a wide open layup. I audibly gasped from my seat because I'm so not used to people cutting. I think Jalen is one of those guys that just understands he has to do every little thing to get on that floor.
Yeah.
I think TJ is one of those guys too. I mean, whether it's, playing so long in college and having so many different teammates or just how he's wired, I think he's wired that way. Looking at this team as a whole, again, I'm going to take Ant off the table just because I think everybody expects he's going to take a pretty big leap. But whether it's a gut feeling, statistics you have behind it, who do you feel like this season has that chance to really kind of make a leap, whether it's Dante or Julius in their second year or, a guy like Jaden who's entering his 6th season just like Ant is?
I think you can make a case for all 3 of those guys. If you told me to choose Dante, I could make a case for him, for Julius, for Jaden. But the one that jumps to mind first off is Julius Randle. I'm fascinated to see if he can pick up where he left off because when he came back from injury, and actually it started a little bit before he got injured last year in whatever it was, January or February. He started to figure it out, and the Wolves started to win some games when, his record when he played, the Wolves, were like one game under 500 or over 500 went in the first half of the season. But then from that point on, when he played, they won basketball games, and Julius was sensational down the stretch, and it continued into the postseason. And if he can continue that, boy, I think that changes the equation and alleviates some of the pressure. Not that Ant feels pressure. That guy just eats pressure for lunch. I think he thrives off it. But you don't want to have Ant feel like he has to carry the load every single night. He'll carry the load almost every night, but he doesn't have to feel that way. Like Julius can be that number, that 1A to Ant's 1. So I would choose Julius Randle. I just think he's in a really good place. I think he found some real success at the end of last season. He got a real comfort level with his teammates, with the system, and his environment, with his family being here and everything. And so I would choose Julius Randle because I think if he's able to do what he did in the postseason last year and continue that with what I think we all assume Ant is going to be even better, because he's just done that each and every year. He's gotten more efficient. He's added to his game. I think he's going to embrace more now than ever guarding some of the other team's best players, especially with Nickeil being gone and having that defensive acumen. Because oftentimes it was Jaden first, Nickeil second, then maybe Ant if we got to the fourth quarter. But I think Ant will jump up and be that, want those matchups because I think he's ready. And here we are talking about Ant again. But the other night in Chicago, we got a chance to sit courtside, and so rarely I get a chance to sit courtside and broadcast a game. It was just impressive to see how he sort of manipulated the game. I thought his decision making, and his balance between his shot making. I mean, maybe some of he was 9 for 19 shooting, so that's not a great night. But I thought his decision making was fantastic, and he finished with 5 assists. I thought he easily could have finished with 8 or 9 if a couple guys just knocked down some shots. I love the way he and Julius are both looking for Rudy Gobert. This is something that fans don't realize, but every single day during camp, when they begin their warm-ups and kind of get into their practice, it's usually the starters at one of the hoops, and it's running pick and roll. It's doing various drills where they are intentional about looking for Rudy. They want to really get in that mindset of, hey, we need to look for Rudy. Because in the Western Conference Finals, you saw last year, OKC just didn't guard Rudy. They played the Wolves, 5-on-4 because they could sort of just leave Rudy alone because the Wolves were not intentional about actively involving Rudy Gobert. You have to keep the defenses honest. It'll look clunky at times, but you've got to keep that defense honest, and it'll open things up for guys like Ant and Julius. And I thought in that Chicago game, both those guys did a really good job. And Chris Finch backed this up. He said, yep, that was a really good job by everybody of looking for Rudy. He missed some shots early, but that second and third quarters, Rudy was a big part of things. I also love the way he crashed the offensive glass. I think he's got to be you'd love to see. I think he averaged 3.4 offensive rebounds a game last year, but you'd love to see that number somehow get up over 4. I think that would be a huge thing for Minnesota.
Rudy is such an interesting person on this team too, because last year I talked to him quite a bit about it, of just like, when you don't get the ball on offense, it's really hard to play defense every single possession perfectly when you're not feeling involved. And there are so many plays where he is open on a short roll and just doesn't get the pocket pass. Yep. He is, on the baseline waiting for a lob, and the lob never comes. And I've been trying to figure it out, and I'd love your thought on it. I think it is just because it looks so bad when it goes wrong. When Rudy fumbles a ball, he darn near kicks it into the fourth row. When he misses an alley-oop or a shot, it's an ugly miss. And I just wonder if that gets in people's heads too, where they're like, I'm not going to throw it to Rudy because this might just look awful.
Yeah. I think that
I really can't figure it out why they just don't feed him as much, because he is effective when he gets the opportunity.
Yeah, I think what happens is you can have success with it 1, 2, 3 times, but it's the one time that it doesn't work somehow has more of an effect than the 3 times that it did work. And that one time it doesn't work really hits home more than the success for some reason. And whether it's Ant, whether it's Julius, we know Mike loves to play with Rudy and run the pick and roll. That's still successful. And Mike can feed that lob better than anybody. So it's not on. Mike will always look for that. But that one time it doesn't work really seeps in. And then I think Julius and Ant in particular, because those are the 2 guys with the ball in their hands the most, they become reluctant to make that play. But that's when you have to actually push through and make that play, because again, it'll open up that inside for them later. And I just see the game slowing down for Ant too. There's just so many times where he will drive, collapse the D. He doesn't panic. He doesn't get in too deep, where oftentimes in years past, his passes would get deflected coming out. Now, OKC is still really good at this because they're just tremendous defensively, but it just seems like he's making the right pass. He's seeing the game. It's slowing down for him. And it's just, I think it's sensational to watch. I thought Ant had a really good game against Chicago. And I kind of thought in the preseason, the other 2 games he played in, it didn't stand out as much to me. I didn't know how to read it, but I'm not worried about Ant at all going in the regular season because I think he's poised for a really big year.
This might be an unfair question, but I'm just kind of curious. Have you ever been around a player like Ant?
No.
Yeah.
No. His personality, his gravitas, his infectious smile and energy is just, it's one of a kind. It's one of a kind. And I think that's why you saw in Team USA guys like Steph Curry and LeBron James and Kevin Durant gravitate towards Ant, not Ant coming to them. You just want to be around Ant because that's where the party's at. That's where the fun is. You don't know what he's going to do or what he's going to say. And you just kind of want to be around that. And so, no, I have not been around a player quite like Ant. That's for sure.
Yeah, he is certainly just one of a kind in every sense of that phrase. Alan, that's all I had for the pod today, though. I do give my guests, I mean, opportunity. Anything you want to plug, anything you want to say, anything you need to get off your chest, Wolves related. The moment is yours, whatever you have.
Wow, it's a lot of pressure, but I will. I'll just say thank you, and I'm looking forward to another season, year number 19 for me. I hope fans tune in on FanDuel Sports North. I hope they tune in on KFan 100.3 FM, the iHeartRadio app. This is all the games are right there. The iHeartRadio app. You download this thing for free. It doesn't cost you a thing. It takes 10 seconds to download it. All you have to do is search Timberwolves, and that station pops up, and you'll listen to every game. And you can listen to it anytime. During the game, but you can listen to it from anywhere. Like we've had fans listen from overseas, anywhere in the country. It's an easy way. And once you do it, you can bookmark it, you can favorite it, you can follow it, do whatever it asks you to do there. And then you can just Bluetooth that thing to your home stereo. You can Bluetooth it to your car. More and more fans these days have been starting to, put the radio call with the TV call and match them up. You can sync them up with that iHeartRadio app. You can pause it. And so you can line it up with your TV, and it just gives fans another way to consume Timberwolves basketball. Nothing wrong with watching the television broadcast, listening to Michael Grady, listening to Jim Pete, the national games that we talked about. There's going to be lots of times when FanDuel is doing a game side by side with ESPN, Amazon, Peacock, NBC, those kind of things. So you're going to have a lot of different people to listen to and a lot of different ways to consume Timberwolves basketball. And so I just encourage fans to listen in when they can't watch it on TV. And it's just going to be a lot of fun this season.
It's year number 2 for me. I'm still shocked I'm here, but Alan, you've been a delight. Thank you for doing this. And for the 100 or so people in here, if you came in late, this will be published on Monday at 7 a.m. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, it'll live on forever on YouTube.
Oh, so they didn't miss out.
X.
If they were late today, they don't miss out. If they
don't miss out. If you missed the stream, you can listen to it on your drive-in. I know over at Falling Knife, Dane Moore, Crunch Wears No Pants, all those guys are doing a Wolves Fest. So I am by no means offended if you missed out to hang out with those guys because I'm guessing they have a blast. But Alan, thank you again so much, and I'll probably see you tomorrow at practice. I'm assuming you'll be there.
Absolutely. Andrew, great to be on with you. Great job with all the coverage you do and zone coverage and everything that I think Wolves fans are so spoiled. I've said this since I got hired in 2007 with all the different mediums that are covering Timberwolves basketball and some really smart analysis and really good takes. And it's just it's a fun way to follow your favorite team. And so I encourage fans to follow everybody that covers this game, whether it's on radio, whether it's on TV, whether it's on print, whether it's on podcast. It's all good. And I think the Wolves have some of the best coverage of any team out there.
Completely agree with you. I mean, they have the people at the top like John Krasinski, who I can't speak I can't say enough positive things about. He's been just awesome,
Yeah.
all the way down to, you know, people at Zone Coverage, Canis Hoopus, howling at the
Absolutely.
hoops, the post game shows, howling with the homies. I
Yep.
mean, it is endless, but there's so many good people in this media market that
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. I forgot to mention the print,
pleasure.
the written word, which is where everything all started. But yeah, everybody who's covering it is just provides great insight into the team, and hopefully it's a long and successful season.
Yes, sir. I'm there with you. Thanks again, Alan. And I will be back doing another live stream Monday afternoon with Dane Moore, getting another little season primer setter, table setter. We'll table set for the season. Thanks,
Sounds
though,
good.
Alan.
Thank you.